So I'm really proud of the progress we have made since we all met here last year, and we really couldn't have got here without our customers. Over 6,000 users in the system, 364 active terabytes in the system, 10,000 workspaces. We've processed over 100 terabytes of documents, peak activity of over 1,100 users in a single day. I got to tell you, the numbers are great. The numbers are great, but hearing the stories from our customers has been, truly inspiring. And so, every year during the keynote, I invite a few customers on stage, and we talk about the amazing things that they're doing in the software, the amazing things they're doing in the industry and the product. And so we're going to do something different this year, and we're going to create like a talk show in the morning, late one morning with Andrew Saja. So let's set up the stage, please. Okay. They should have told me to dance. That would have been better, right? All right. We're set up. Good. Okay. All right. So my first guest is Laurie Mazzola from Epstein, Becker & Green. And I got to tell you, unfortunately, Laurie got into a car accident last week, last week Friday. And she's got a busted foot and she can't travel. And so we had to improvise a little bit today. And so she's made this little video. For you guys that I want to play right now. And then I'm gonna tell Laurie's story. Please play the Laurie video, please.
Hello, Relativity One. This is Laurie Mazzola, IT Director for Epstein, Becker & Green. I also head litigation support for the firm. I planned to be there today, but unfortunately a small accident clipped my wings. So instead, Andrew Saja has graciously agreed to tell my story. The story how moving to Relativity One has transformed the complexion of e-discovery in our firm at a national level. Thank you, Andrew, but you better do a good job.
Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you, Laurie. So about 3 months ago, I was having dinner with Laurie and the managing partner of the firm, and Epstein, Becker & Green is a national law firm, 14 offices, a few hundred partners, and they recently made the transition over to Relativity One. They signed late last year, and we've migrated all their data probably by April. And when we were meeting over the summer, we started talking. I'm like, so Laurie, how's it going? And she was like, the first part was really rough, and that was related to the migration. But once we got all of the data migrated to the platform, we really started to see all the benefits of Relativity One. And I'm like, okay, continue. And then she went off on this beautiful rant. And she was like, first, my staff is so much happier. It's because they've been in this industry for some time, and they're really excited about the craft. And when they came on board, they really wanted to work with Relativity, but they've been spending so much time in dealing with technical issues and dealing with performance issues and managing the next patch and the upgrade, which is kind of crazy because they were also working through a managed service provider, and they're doing all this technology stuff, and they can't be the legal practitioners that they want to be. And now with Relativity One, they can do that work, and as a result, they're having more fun. They're engaging with all the new technology. They're applying it with on the different projects, and as a result, my team is a lot happier. Wow, that's really cool. And then the managing partner of the perm, he piped up and he was like, yes, and the partnership is happier too. And we like having more control over their projects. We prefer to work with our own people, and it's working really well. And there's a consistent experience with the software, so it's really working well for the legal team as well. And then Laurie is like, oh yeah, and we're making more money too. And it's because our lit support folks are actually doing much more substantive work on their client engagements, while we can actually bill that back to our clients. It's an amazing transformation story, and I really wish that she was here to tell it, because does it so much better than me. So hopefully, Laurie, you're okay with that. Cool. So for our next guest, he's been in the industry for 25 years. Has written 3 books on cybercrime, and is consulted on many high-profile civil and criminal cases around the world. He's the e-discovery and forensic manager over at Rio Tinto. Please welcome to the stage Karl Obayi. Hey, how you doing? You looking good this morning?
Thank you.
How are we doing?
I'm good, and you?
Yeah, do you like the energy? Like the...
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're always
thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. We really appreciate you coming on board. So, Karl, you flew all the way from over the UK. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who's traveled all over the world to come to the conference, by the way. Yes.
Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going on over at Rio Tinto these days.
Okay. A couple of years back, 20 years thereabout, when I started legal practice, it became very evident going forward that the practice of law was going to be inextricably linked with the development in technology, given the substantial reliance on computers and digital devices. So I consciously specialized in that area, qualified as a computer systems engineer, moved forward and qualified as a computer forensic expert, and coupled that with e-discovery. I have brought and fused all of that ability to address some of the very challenging problems confronting Rio Tinto in terms of managing its global challenges around the world.
Cool. And so, you're at Rio Tinto. You're thinking about a broader technology change. What was happening?
Some context is very important here. Rio Tinto is a global company with a business footprint in about 35 countries around the world. This business concerns run across jurisdictional borders with disparate legal regimes. We were having in-house at that point in time some very disparate systems to deal with e-discovery matters. And currently, if you've been following the press, there's been a lot of interfacing between Rio Tinto and some of the most robust regulatory bodies around the world. The SEC here in the United States, SFO in the UK, you have the ASIC in Australia, the ATO in Australia, and in fact, the concern was simply whether or not we were properly positioned to address all of these challenges. Stephen Story, the head of operations, and Hugh Bigwood, who heads the ethics and integrity team, posed the challenge to me when I came on as a consultant, and it was simply, how do we effectively deal with these challenges and aggregate efficiencies going forward?
Across the entire organization.
Absolutely.
And so you picked Relativity One. Thank you, by the way. So tell us a little bit about the decision. Yes.
My simple response when that challenge was posed was, I smiled and looked at them and said, give me the budget for Relativity One, and they did.
It's good. And so, global deployment. We can support all your support the business all over the world. There's close to 40,000 employees. A lot of activities happening. You're a pretty recent customer, but you've been using the product in earnest. Tell us just about your quick experience with it. What's it been like?
Frankly, the decision to adopt Relativity One was simply not just based on cost. There were other tangential matters we had to examine. Primarily, of course, was the movement to the cloud, which substantially saved on the cost of hardware, and also brought in additional advantages like not being very concerned with version controls and upgrades, because all of that was done at the back end. So it was very important that we did not waste too much capital and productive time on all of that back end.
So you got going right away.
Absolutely. But even more important, we took time, because at Rio Tinto, we do like to examine the details. We took time to really examine how the inherent technology was deployed within Relativity One. And what was very salutary for me was in terms of the search methodologies and analytics. I looked at the latent semantic indexing, and what was very encouraging there was that it was actually dealing with mathematical algorithms instead of just dealing with dictionary terms. And that was important for me because I thought it moved search methodologies and metrics from the realms of just theoretical dictionary terms to an empirical science because we were dealing with mathematical algorithms. But the other bit of it which we examined, which was very important also, was how much time was the platform going to save us? And that also necessitated looking at some of the inherent tools in the system. And one of which we looked at, you would recall in the industry here that part of what was very time-consuming was indexing the data you've ingested. And what was very salutary was that for the structured analytics, you're doing your email trading, near text dedupe, language classifications, you did not require to run a full index. That was very impressive for me, and that saved a lot of time. We were also concerned with the fact that the relativity integration point also made it possible for us to mess around with workspaces, move them around without necessarily inventing the wheel. So all these were very time-saving features. But very interesting also was the active learning component, which I took time to really look at and made plenty of sense to me because what I think Relativity 1 succeeded in doing is actually simplify a process and took it out of what ordinarily is referred to as a black box technology. Because invariably what we saw with that model was a situation where we could deal with volume of data in simple binary metrics, yes or no. And the icing on the cake for that for me, Andrew, was simply the fact that we could validate the process through the illusion test. Because part of the problem with adopting predictive coding, artificial intelligence was simply, do we understand the technology enough?
How do you prove the results? Exactly.
But I think what was actually achieved with the deployment of active learning within the space of Relativity 1 was stupefyingly magnificent. It simplified the process, and that was great.
I love it when people call our product simplifying it, like stupefying magnificent.
Yeah, so that was great.
Karl, my man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. If you want to hear more from Karl, he's got a session here, Rio Tinto, a corporate success story. Please go check it out. And let's make room for our next guest, Karl.
Thank you.
Our next guest is the president of D4 Special Counsel, Laurie Chamberlin. Please welcome us to the stage. How are you?
Great, thank you.
We're always trying to do something new here, right? That's part of relativity, is just inventing all the time. I just need some coffee now, huh? Yeah, very good. So, we've been D4 has been a customer of ours for many, many years, and we've had an arrangement with Special Counsel as well. But back in late of 2016, D4 and Special Counsel came together, and so tell us a little bit about why you think D4 and Special Counsel are special and unique.
So Special Counsel has been a market leader in the doc review space for years and years, and we started transforming ourselves to a true consulting company, but we needed to be able to provide more of the left side from forensics, collection, information governance, and we started dabbling with that and doing some proof of concept and really needed to go out and acquire a company to be taken seriously in the space. D4 allowed us to do that, but we never intended to be a technology company. We really wanted to merge our two organizations to continue our journey on consulting.
Cool. And I love this graph. This is speaks a little bit about the kind of the momentum that you've seen after the companies came together. Practically doubling your user count, doubling your the amount of data that you've been pumping in the system. What's really driving that momentum right now?
So I have to tell you, you love this slide, and while yes, it looks awesome, I'd like to say this is the start of the beginning for us. Really, we've seen some phenomenal adoption from our clients that really have trusted us for years and years to give them sound advice and what technology to use. So this is a piece of the story, but I like to believe this is the start of what's to come. And really, our Special Counsel clients at a local and regional level, as well as the ones that are in the news, have really embraced what we're doing.
Cool. You're part of a business unit in a giant company. You're doing really well. If you're doing really well, you probably get access to a lot of dollars in investment. You're thinking about really expanding your technology footprint. And I'm really proud of this because you were deeply looking at, hey, do we expand all our stuff that we have today, or do we just do a major commitment with like Relativity One? And you end up signing on a 100 terabyte commitment with the product. Tell us a little bit about like the thinking and the rationale there.
Yeah, so realistically, we wanted to show you all and our client base our serious commitment to this cloud-based offering. And we have about 70 locations that if we were going to provide quick discovery for some of the smaller players that don't necessarily have their own instance or their own commitments with Relativity, we wanted to make that more accessible for the local user, and this helps us do that. Also internationally, we're in China and we're in the UK, but I was in meetings last week with our global C-suite, and they want us to take this everywhere globally, and we're in about 60 countries right now. There's no way we could do that unless we were using Relativity One.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy that you decided to make the leap with us. We're here for you, and thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Karl, for coming up on stage.
Thank you.
Please give our guests a nice. Thank you. Great. Thank you.